Welcome, viewers, to another fabulous episode of Unapologetically Free. Now, today I'm going to share my thoughts on wet dreams. So, first off, what is a wet dream? Basically, a wet dream is a dream that tends to be sexual in nature and results in you, the dreamer, to have an orgasm in your sleep. So interestingly, I do know people who have not have memory of experiencing a wet dream in their life, as they were always and has always been masturbating and jerking off since puberty. So for these people, interestingly, they've never experienced wet dream, and many such people, when they go on NoFap, they will be shocked that something like a wet dream exists, and rightly so. So, simply put, in terms of practical considerations, a wet dream results in a loss of semen. So, a lot of the effects that you experience through a wet dream, be it perhaps an increased sense of anxiety, perhaps a slightly increase in lethargy, it has to do with the nutrients leaving your body through ejaculation. So let me talk about what happens after a wet dream. So based on my own personal experience, I would feel slightly more anxious and out of sorts for at least one day after my wet dream. And in my own experience, this is merely a temporary condition and therefore is not considered a relapse. The very next day, most of the time, I actually feel okay and I feel like I am back in progress for my NoFap. Now, I do know people who complain of the negative effects of wet dreams, such as having the chaser effect, whereby you feel a greater sense of horniness after that wet dream and that orgasm. But honestly, to me, sometimes wet dreams do come as a form of release in the pent-up pressure that builds up in men that go on this NoFap journey. So personally, while I do not seek to have wet dreams because it does remove certain nutrients through ejaculation, I don't make a big deal out of having wet dreams because it is something natural. And not only that, sometimes you do want to have a form of a release that does not mess with your brain chemistry. Because when you have a wet dream, what I realize is that the negative consequences tend to be physical. So, in terms of the healing of the brain, I am convinced that having a wet dream will very, very unlikely affect your NoFap progress. So for the last part of this video, I will be talking about what may lead to a wet dream. So there are certain patterns that I notice that will lead you to having a wet dream. So basically, on days that I have wet dreams, usually during the day, I would have browsed certain suggestive material. And on that very night, when I go to bed, it will very likely sometimes result in a wet dream. And I have this sense of self-awareness where when I notice that I seem to be brimming and filled to the brim with a lot of sexual pressure, it is usually on such days that I would also have a wet dream if I browse suggestive video materials. Now, for those people out there that really want to use this pressure and energy to take your career, take your life goals to the next level, then I would suggest that a complete abstinence from even browsing videos or even thinking about suggestive thoughts would be helpful, because then you can truly and fully use this sexual energy in order to further whatever you want to further without losing these energy and these nutrients through the form of a wet dream. Of course, the last prerequisite for having a wet dream is that you must not have been masturbating for a while, because if you constantly release your load uh, while not dreaming, that is to say, whenever you're awake, it is almost impossible, okay, for you to have a wet dream. And for myself, I tend to start having wet dreams from 14 days onwards. And that is my experience. So if you like this video, like it, comment, subscribe, share this video, and I'll see you again.